Hi everyone, and welcome to Doing Tech Bits. This is a tech podcast all about transitions, and by that I mean three things. Non-tech to tech transitions, which basically means transitioning from a non-tech background into the tech industry. Secondly, tech to tech transitions, which means someone already in the tech field and transitioning to a different domain. For example, you can start out as a full stack engineer and transition to a consultant like I've done. Or you might be working as, say, a data scientist and you want to be a tech founder or entrepreneur. That's a tech to tech transition. And finally, international tech moves. This means working in the tech industry in a different country like Nigeria and transitioning to working in the tech industry in the UK, for example. Welcome to the show. Do you want to start by introducing yourself? Tell us a bit about your background.
Yes, so my name is Heike Faith Adex. I am Nigerian, but I'm also German because I was born there. And I am a quality engineer and Scrum Master by trade.
Fantastic. Very, very brief and concise. I like it. Do you want to tell us a bit about your hobbies, things you enjoy doing, preferably after your 9 to 5?
So I love cooking. I like baking. There was a time, like last year, also at the start of this year, I was doing a lot of salsa dancing.
Salsa dancing?
Yeah, so I started learning
Yeah.
salsa. Yeah, like, yeah, so that was really fun. So I used to do that like Tuesdays and Wednesdays after work. So those are a few things I like to do.
Right, interesting. Maybe one day you take me along to one of your salsa lessons.
Yeah, it's really fun actually.
Salsa is something I've always admired. It looks very engaging.
It is. It looks complex, but it's actually not as hard as it looks.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, do you want to tell us a bit about one or maybe two of your proudest accomplishments, achievements in life?
My whole life.
In your whole life.
My proudest. I think one of them definitely has to be my transition from like medical field into tech.
Okay.
I was definitely very proud of that. Because when I was making the transition, I didn't know what the end was going to look like, but I was optimistic. But a lot of people thought I was crazy. So when I was like, you know what, guys, it worked out. That made me really proud. I don't know. I think just like being someone that tries. I think I'm just really proud of the type of person I am. I'm not like afraid to try. And like, I'm not afraid to stop something I don't like. You know, like people just keep going. They're like, oh, well, I've started it now, so I have to keep going. If I don't like it, I'm going to stop. And I'm happy and proud to be that kind of person.
Right.
Yeah.
Lovely. Following on from that, do you want to tell us your tech origin story? How it all started from you? Did you always know you would like to work in tech? How did this all happen for you?
So did I always know I was going to work in tech or wanted to work in tech? No, I never had I want to work in tech moment. Like there's never that thing because growing up, I never knew what I wanted to do. I found the question quite ridiculous. You know, when people say, what do you want to do when you grow up?
Yeah.
I'll just say stuff because I was like, oh, I need to have something to say.
Yeah.
But the older I get, the more I'm like, that's such a ridiculous question to ask a child or like an 18-year-old. Like, oh, what do you want to pick to study in university? I'm 18. Like, all I've done is maths, and science, and English.
True.
And there's so many other things you could do, right? They don't expose you to different things. So no, I never really knew I wanted to do that. But how did I get into tech? I was working in the labs. So I studied biomedical science at university. I was working in the labs and I didn't like it. It was always cold and I just didn't like the work. It was very repetitive. Everything was the same. And one day I just up and quit my job. And then the pandemic came. So I quit my job like February 2020. Pandemic hit literally the next month. And I was just like, okay. And I'm high risk. So the plan was to keep working, but do bank shifts. So that's you pick and choose your shifts, right? but I'm high risk, so I couldn't go back to work. So my boss was just like, you're going to have to go home like now. So I couldn't finish like my month at work. I had to leave mid-month. And then I moved back to Manchester. So I was in Cambridge at the time, moved back to Manchester. And then I did a boot camp in cloud computing, 3 months boot camp, AWS, became an AWS cloud practitioner. And then I got a job in tech, November 2020. February 2020, quit my job. March 2020, moved back. No, I left. I had to leave my job. And then May 2020, moved back to Manchester. August 2020, started the boot camp. November 2020, got a job in tech.
Wow, 2020 must have been
It was,
one of those years.
yeah, it was an interesting year. A lot of ups and downs, but it ended well.
Right, cool. A few more things we'd like to know about you. What is or are your favorite food or delicacies?
Oh. Anyone that knows me knows I love rice.
Okay.
So I can eat rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
You're one of them.
I'm one of them.
Oh,
And I'm not ashamed. I am not ashamed. And also, I won't have any meat or chicken with it. So,
are you joking?
no, I'm an extremist.
Yeah.
So, I'm very much committed to rice and rice alone. So I love jollof rice, fried rice.
All the rice.
All the rice. Any rice dish, just give it to me. I'll eat it.
Wow. That's very interesting. Well, okay, finally, can you tell me what your favorite song is, favorite album, and favorite artist?
Favorite song, probably. I don't have a favorite. I find it very hard to have favorite anything.
Okay, maybe tell us what you're listening to at the moment.
Okay, right now actually, there's this artist called Marizu. I always get his name wrong, but he's a Christian artist, and he has this song called Abba. I've been really listening to that a lot. I really like it. Favorite album, I really like Travis Green's album. I forgot what it's called, but I like all of Travis Green's songs anyway. So he's probably my favorite artist.
Yeah.
And I like the Call That Music, the album he released this year. But I don't know what it's called.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so in this segment, this is Bits About Tech. This is the meat of it, right? And my first question to you is, what was it like making that transition from medical field into tech? And what were some of the challenges you faced, and how did you navigate those waters?
Yeah, that's a good question. What was it like? It was just up and down. Because so how I started is I got a call one day, my auntie was like looking to digital transformation. So I thought, okay, let me look into this. Thinking about what is that, Then I went from that into agile, and I was like, oh, what's agile? Then I went from agile into Scrum, and I was like, oh, what's Scrum? And I learned what a Scrum Master does. I was like, oh, this sounds like something I would love to do. Yeah. So I started doing more research in that, right? And then from that, I actually got someone to train me to become a Scrum Master. And then I funded that all by myself. And then I took like one of the Scrum Master certification exams.
Okay.
And then because of the way I just left my job, for me, I was in a place where I was just trying different things. So my transition into tech was actually a lot of just trial and error. So it was just like, okay, there's this course here, go and take it and try it. There's this going on here, go and attend. There's an event, go and meet people. So it was literally like, even before I did the boot camp, I did some other online tech, like 1 week courses, So you meet for a week, or like some sort of digital course. So my transition was just a lot of like trial and error until something stuck, right? So I did the boot camp, and then that stuck. And then that kind of got me out that transition phase. Some of the challenges that I faced, I think a lot of the challenges were probably more mental. Because I was just a bit more like, oh, can I do this? This is crazy. Like, I have nothing else. So it was just a bit more like telling myself, I had to just sit myself down and be like, you have no choice but to do this because you have nothing else, right? Unless you want to go back to where you're coming from. you have nothing else. But physical challenges, I don't think I saw anything as a challenge, because as long as I was trying, as long as I was turning up to anything that was available to me, I can't complain, right? And I was turning up, so I can't feel like I was being challenged. Because the opportunities were there, I just had to kind of grab them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were putting yourself out there, you were active, just, just doing stuff and seeing what it was. Interesting. Did you have any mentors or friends? I know you mentioned your auntie helped you. Did you have any other mentors or friends that were integral to that whole sort of transition phase for you?
I wouldn't say mentors per se, but I did have a friend who I had my friends who I was telling, like I would tell them I'm trying to like get into tech, I'm trying to get into tech. So the boot camp that I actually did, one of my friends sent it to me.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was like, oh, like I know you're trying to do this thing, check this out. So I was like, okay, I'll check it out, and I applied. So that really played a big role, because to be honest, if she didn't send it to me, I would have never seen it. Because it was like on Instagram and she was following the page already and stuff like that, I would have never seen the page. Or I think maybe she saw it advertised somewhere. But so she played like a key role in that transition. And then my auntie did as well, in the sense that she was the one that actually sparked this whole tech conversation in my head. So had she never mentioned it, I wouldn't have been thinking about tech, because like growing up, I used to think tech was for like certain type of people, or you have to be very, very technical to be in like a tech. Yeah, exactly. You have to be sat around your computer and
Keyboard warrior.
yeah, literally like, and all that stuff. So that's literally what I kind of had in mind as like a tech person. But obviously, like I learned that's not true. Like anybody can literally work in tech. Even if you work in finance, you can work for a tech company.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So now, a friend helped you get the boot camp, and after the boot camp, then comes the trying to get a job stage.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? What was your approach to job hunting?
Yeah, so because I'm very big on honesty. So for me, job hunting was a bit more complicated in the sense that I don't have that much experience, because I'm still new in this field, right? So I'm not going to say I've got 10 years of experience when I don't, right? And a lot of times you see a job advert and you see has to have 5 years experience. And I'm just like, where do I even begin? But my approach is simple, just apply anyway. Because they're gonna say 5 years experience. Half the time they don't even know what they're looking for. Like I'll read a job description and I'll be like, sometimes I read a job description and I'm like, this doesn't even make sense, for the level of experience you're asking for. Like,
Why? How would you know all of these things?
Yeah,
After 2 years,
for a junior level, like it's a junior level role, but you're asking for 15 years experience. Who is applying for that, right? So just learning that actually it's okay to just apply anyway. So that's one way I approached it. Again, telling people that I'm looking for a job, because people always send you stuff. But I was fortunate enough that even though I was applying for jobs myself, the boot camp itself had some partnerships. So they would send our CV out to people as well. I know one of them actually contacted the company and said, hey, we want to interview her. So I did the interview and I was able to get the job with the company that I'm in now.
Okay, nice. So you went to this interview now. Leading up to the interview, how did you prepare for it?
Oh, it's a good question. Because like they were really impressed. And not to brag, but that's what they told me.
Brag if you must.
But they did tell me, because I knew a lot about the company.
Right.
I knew about what they do, and not just what they do, like their values.
Okay.
So because I was able to tell them that, like sometimes they'll be like, so read this, and I'll be like, yeah, because da 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 da, and they're like, oh, like like you've done your research. So I'm like, yeah, I literally spent like the night before just scraping their website. So that's one way to really prepare, like know what the company does, know what the company stands for, and know how you can fit into what the company stands for.
Right.
So not only are they picking me, but I was picking them as well, because I saw their values and I said, oh, like I want to work for this company because of your values and because of what you guys stand for.
Right.
So that, I think I was able to really get that across because I actually cared about what they do and what they stand for.
Right.
So that's like how I went about preparing. Because before the interview, I didn't really understand what they do. So another thing I did was go on their YouTube page, and they actually have videos where they explain what they do. So I just watched their videos, and learned from that as well. So yeah.
Sounds like you really researched and really, really like looked into this company to make sure that it was not just you weren't just a good fit for them, but a good fit for you as well.
Yeah.
And this is something that took me a while to learn in my career. It's not onto my current job that I started thinking about it like you're interviewing me, but I'm also interviewing you.
Yeah.
Right. It's going both ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really, really good to hear. My next question for you is, so you've transitioned from medical field into tech. Are there any skills that have been transferable? Or like, are there things that you learned and picked up, maybe not even in the medical field, just in life in general, that you found to be very, very important to your current role, job in general?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. People skills.
I hear that all the time.
People
That's
skills.
almost the first thing that comes up.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's so important. But you know what's funny? Or not funny, but interesting. My people skills in the lab didn't necessarily prepare me for my people skills in the tech world.
Okay, expatiate on that a bit, please.
Yeah, so I was talking to you earlier about developers and, the nature of a developer. Oftentimes, you actually meet people at work that are a lot more reserved. And when you work in the tech industry, especially when you're working from home, people are in their own space, their own bubble. If I'm delivering something, I'm working on a ticket. Most of the time, I'm working on it in isolation by myself.
Yeah.
So communication is not something that someone that is grown up working for tech and that's all they know. Communication might not always be the strong point unless they're a manager or there's someone that's in people ops or something like that. So going into tech, I went in with this mindset of, oh yeah, people are just gonna like show you how to do stuff and teach you everything and train you. But when you work in tech, it's not like that. You're just going to send you a ticket and you're going to ask a question and they'll send you a link.
So like autonomy, like serious.
Yes. So it's just like they'll send you a link this is how you do it. Or like, here's a link on how someone else did it.
Now go read it.
Yeah.
Go study that.
Go figure it out, And they're not doing it to be mean. They're not doing it but that's just what they know.
And everyone's busy as well.
Exactly. And because the nature of the job is you're working and I need to deliver this and I can't deliver it if I'm helping you. And not that people are not helpful, but I had to learn that the way people help in the tech industry is very different to the way people help in the labs.
Yeah.
And I guess it's also because of the nature of the work. So in the lab, it is very much very, very, very important. You handle everything with care because you're dealing with like human lives.
Yeah.
Whereas here I'm dealing with technology, it can break, we'll fix it type of thing. So I say communication transferable, but not that transferable.
Okay.
One thing that's been really transferable is probably just management, like time management, ensuring that I'm able to actually get all my work done, anything that's assigned to me. If it's too much, being able to communicate that ahead of time, working towards deadlines is very important as well. And the willingness to learn. I think that's very, very key. The biggest thing that I've learned in life in general, but it's helped me a lot in tech, is that I have to always learn because technology is always changing.
Always. 100% always. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so moving on from that, what would you say has been your biggest challenge so far working in tech? And to sort of counteract that, what has been your biggest accomplishment in tech?
Biggest
or
challenge.
proudest accomplishment? Yeah, go on.
So my biggest challenge was the learning to begin with, right? Because you come from a place where you learn something and you know how to do it.
Cool.
It's going into a place where you learn something, you know how to do it today, you work on a different component, you don't know how to do it anymore because it works completely differently. So that's been my biggest challenge, is actually letting go of this idea that I'm going to know all the time. There are days where I don't know. and it's okay, right?
Yeah.
Because I used to be very hard on myself and used to be like, oh, they're gonna think I don't know anything. Oh, this is so bad. I've been here for 6 months and I'm still asking questions. And I was just stressed. And now, in hindsight, I'm like, I was stressed for no reason. Because, fun fact, no one knows.
No, nobody.
Nobody knows.
Are you listening from home or wherever you're watching?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
If they tell you they know, they're lying. Literally, they are lying. Anybody that tells you they know, they're lying. Because they read Stack Overflow, and then they came and then they're talking.
That's the Bible.
Literally, that's how people do. They just read something and then they come and talk, and then you're like, whoa. And then you talk to them after, they're like, yeah, I just read it. Like, hey, I'll send you the link. So it's realizing that it's okay to actually keep going and keep learning.
Yeah.
But for me, the challenge was my mind telling me that I have to know everything. And if I don't, I'm not good enough and I don't belong here. Once I got rid of that, my biggest accomplishment is not being afraid to ask questions. So now when I sit in a meeting, people are talking, I'm like, what does that even mean? Right? Yeah. I'm not scared anymore, because before I was scared, like, oh, if I ask, they're going to think I'm stupid. No, if you ask, you're going to be stupid. If you don't ask, you're going to be stupid, because you're never going to know, right? Exactly. Let me ask now before this ticket comes to me for me to test, and I don't know how to test it. Yeah. Right? So the biggest accomplishment I would actually say is overcoming my fear, and I still get it sometimes, but overcoming my fear to ask questions and to really dig deep into the detail, because sometimes I used to think that the detail was just for certain people, that the product owners, the developers, but I realized that actually I can know the detail too. Yeah.
That's how you learn and grow. You ask questions. Yeah. And best believe you're thinking about a question, it's probably a bunch of people in that meeting that are thinking about the same question, 100%. But don't want to ask. Right? Yeah. But yeah, that's very, very good. The next question for you is, currently as a tester and Scrum Master, what does your typical day look like?
Yeah, it's good. Good question. You know what? I find this question difficult to answer, because I don't know about you, but I go through the day and sometimes I'm like, what have I done? Like, not that I've not worked.
Welcome to the clubs.
Do you know, there's so much going on. I'm just like, what have I even done? What have I done?
Oh,
like, what have I done? Like, sometimes if you even ask me, what are you working on? I can't tell you, but I know that I'm working, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But my day-to-day looks like waking up and I log in to work. So we usually have a stand-up at 10, but I have 2 stand-ups right now because we just split our team. But I have to attend both because the team's quite low on testers. And I'm also kind of being a Scrum Master for the teams. So 9:45 and 10 attend my scrums. Then after that, I answer any questions anyone may have or any help anyone may have. And then I'll just carry on with my tickets that I'm working on that day. But the thing is, there's no structure to my day. Right. Because I can work on a ticket, I'm testing it, it fails, I move it back, I pick up another ticket, test it, it fails, move it back. Then I have to like get ready for the Scrum events for the next day. So it really depends on the day. Okay. There's actually no real structure to my day. Like, I'm just hopping from task to task. But it's basically working on tickets, testing them. And if I'm not doing that, I'm helping someone. If I'm not helping someone, I'm preparing for a meeting. Okay. So that's what my stays look like.
Interesting. Do you, like, at the beginning of a day, write down things that you would like to do, like a task list, perhaps? Is that something you do?
You know what? That's something I started doing. Mm-hmm. But the thing as a tester, my work is very much dependent on other people's work.
Okay.
So right. the minute I write a task list, I'm not guaranteed to receive that work because the developer may not get it done for me to start testing. Mm-hmm. Or they do get it done, and I'm like, I know this week I wrote down I want to finish a ticket. I want to finish testing a certain ticket. I sent that ticket back to the developers today, so I wasn't able to finish testing it because my work is very much dependent on other people. rather than being fully dependent on me. Right. So I'm always waiting for work to come to me for me to be able to then work on. But the main thing that I actually put down as a thing I want to do is actually be focused on work, because sometimes I can get distracted, like working from home and stuff, and not jumping from task to task too much as well.
That context switching can be very difficult because, before you get into something, sort of move on to another thing, and it takes a while to get into a flow state, which is very useful when you work in tech, because it's at that point you start to really, really get shit done, right?
Yeah, literally. So I try not to do that, but with the way things are set up right now, it's quite difficult. Because when you're the only tester in your team and there's 3, 4, 5 tickets on the board and they're coming at you, you're going to have to switch.
You're going to have
you
to.
know?
Yeah.
So,
That is an interesting problem. Probably something we can discuss more in detail later. But yeah, my next question for you is, now that you've transitioned into tech, have your career and perhaps even your life goals changed? Have you adjusted them?
yeah, they've changed. I'm laughing because one of my life goals used to be I wanted to become a film director.
Not too late.
Yeah, I mean it's not. You're right. I will be doing something related to that hopefully. So they have changed. Well, I would say it's not specific.
Okay.
So like right now I'm working towards becoming like an engineering manager.
Okay.
But if we have this conversation again in like 5 months,
There's no saying what.
yeah, I might be like, I don't want to do that anymore. you know? So for me, I think all it's done is open my mind to the possibility of doing anything. So instead of, and I know it's hard for people to probably comprehend because it's like you have no focus. And it's true, I don't. But I love the freedom of not having any focus because nothing gets missed. In my opinion, for me, in my life and the way I live, nothing gets missed because that's how I ended up in tech to begin with.
Okay, interesting.
So yeah, I don't have a specific thing. One thing I do know is it is a dream of mine to one day become like a consultant and start doing contracting and going into companies and helping them develop their processes.
Okay.
And that's where the Scrum Master thing comes in. So finding a way to develop that, and maybe even not just in the tech world, but also other industries. Because like things like I have friends that work in construction, and I talk to them about Scrum, and they're like, oh, we could use this. And I'm like, I know, because you guys have some interesting ways of doing things. So I feel like for me, I'm very big on like the people within a company, ensuring that their working conditions are good. I think we have it good in the tech industry, but I know, for example, in the medical field, it's not as good as we have it. So one thing I would love to do one day is find ways to improve working conditions in other industries.
Right, fantastic. That is a lofty goal. That is something interesting, and hopefully you can achieve that. This is the final segment, bits on the fire. Right?
Okay.
I'm gonna be giving you the question as they hot, just be giving you the answers. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So my first question for you is: between Manchester, Dublin, and Lagos, choose one place to live, one place to visit, and one place to work.
Right.
And tell us why.
Okay, so visit would be Lagos because living there, the Lagos traffic would literally kill you and finish all your time.
Yeah.
You would actually carry your laptop everywhere just so you can work on the road. Visit would be Dublin because it's not giving enjoyment.
Hey, hold on, you said visit would be Lagos.
Sorry, work would be Dublin. Yeah, because it's not giving enjoyment. To live. Yeah, and then live in Manchester because
Fair enough.
yeah.
Fair enough. That is fine. I was gonna say though about taking your laptop around in Lagos, it wouldn't work because then police will stop you.
That's
and
true,
call you.
and you get robbed.
Yeah. and you
Yeah,
get robbed
that's
as well.
true.
So yeah.
See, there's no safety.
Zero.
Yeah.
But then I'm still going back there to chop life. So.
Yeah, exactly. Visit, you come back.
And come back exactly right. All right, next one. Would you rather spend a whole day baking or spend a whole day watching movies?
Spend the whole day watching movies. But then it depends on my mood. But most likely, what I was most likely do is spend the whole day watching movies.
It's not
In
baking,
bed.
too much stress. So choose one between Kanban and Scrum.
Oh, it depends on what you're trying to do.
I know, but that's why I'm asking the question. I want you to pick.
You know what? I am a Scrum Master, but I'm gonna have to go with Kanban.
Why?
I just feel like Kanban, most teams, if not all, can use it.
Scrum, so?
I don't think it works for everyone.
Is it because ceremonies, too many ceremonies?
No,
too
I
much
think
structure?
the commitment when the product you're developing is very complex and unpredictable in
Yeah.
nature, it's very discouraging to be doing Scrum because you're not going to be completing work within your sprints. You're going to carry over work, then you complete it in the next sprint. But technically, you didn't because most of the work was done in the sprint before. So
Isn't
it
that
doesn't.
like every Scrum team?
Yeah, it is, and it is. It really is.
Yeah.
But it does work for certain teams.
Yeah, no,
It
I
does
get
work.
it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Next one, agile or waterfall?
Agile.
Yeah, I'm not gonna ask for explanation on that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Last fire question. Would you rather go a day without food or go a week without cooking your own food?
Or a day without food.
That's how much you want to cook your own food?
Oh yes. The thought of eating that or have like no for a long period of time, a week, that's too much.
So you want to cook your rice?
Yeah. It doesn't even have to be rice, but I need to have home cooked food. It has to be home cooked so it can warm my stomach.
Right.
But all this takeout is nice every now and then, but for a whole week, I could throw up. And I like to cook, so yeah, I want to cook.
It works for you.
Yeah.
Cool, fantastic. Well, that's it. Thank you very much. And
Thanks for having me.
It's been lovely.
Yes.
Thanks for watching Doing Tech Bits. Please leave a like, comment, DM, anything. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.